Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 26.3 Beta 1. iOS 26.3 Beta 1 is available to developers, and iOS 26.3 Public Beta 1 should be available soon. Now this came in at 8.52 gigabytes on the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and if you're wondering how to install this, if you're a developer or public beta tester, you can go to Settings, go down to General, and then Software Update. As long as you're a developer, you should see it now, and hopefully the public beta will be out soon as well. But if you're not seeing it, go back, go to Software Update, and if you want to try it out as a developer, that's where you should see it. Now this update was released alongside many other updates, with iPadOS 26.3 Beta 1, macOS 26.3 Beta 1, tvOS and HomePodOS 26.3 Beta 1, along with visionOS 26.3 Beta 1 and watchOS 26.3 Beta 1 as well. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. So we'll go to Settings, then we'll go to General, then About. As you can see, the build number is 23D5089E, and this is probably the first beta of maybe 4 betas until we see iOS 26.3 RC. Now, as far as new features, we do have a new modem update going from iOS 26.2, which had version 1.20.06. iOS 26.3 Beta 1 has a version of 1.20.03 on the 17 Pro Max. So it's a little bit of a step back version number-wise, but it should include improvements to cellular connectivity and maybe some other things as well, but we'll have to give it a few days to see if it changes at all. As far as new features, well, the first one is a little bit unexpected from Apple. If we go into our settings, go under General, scroll to the bottom, you'll see Transfer or Reset iPhone. There's a new option here for transfer to Android. So this allows us to more easily transfer from iPhone to Android and maybe to help comply with some rules in the European Union that allow easy transfer from one device to another. So you'll see it says place your devices next to each other. I have a Pixel right here, so let me go ahead and unlock this. We have a Pixel, we can tap continue, and now you'll see it says scan QR code. So you can actually scan the QR code here, and then you have some other options as well, where you can enter a session ID or a pairing code. So if you want to transfer, maybe we'll try this out in a future video, but if you want to transfer to Android, you should be able to do that a little bit more easily, or transfer from Android back over to iPhone more easily. Now this would also include the SIM card as well. However, that option was there already under your cellular settings. So we'll just cancel the transfer for now, tap continue, and we're back to normal. But again, if we go under cellular, and down at the very bottom, there's an option to transfer the phone number. So that's something that's been there for a little while. So it's not the same thing, it's a new feature. There's another new option within Settings. If we go into Settings, scroll down to Notifications, there's a new option for notification forwarding. It says Forward Notifications to. Notifications can be forwarded to one accessory at a time. Notifications will not appear on Apple Watch while notification forwarding is turned on. So this could be maybe used with a Samsung Watch, a Pixel Watch, or others in the future. However, it doesn't look like we have any options just yet, but maybe we'll have that if you don't want to use an Apple Watch, making it a little bit easier to use devices that are different than just Apple's ecosystem. There's another new change within Settings for wallpapers. If we go into our wallpapers on the lock screen and go ahead and add a wallpaper, now with iOS 26.3 on the right and iOS 26.2 on the left, you'll see they've split weather and astronomy into separate sections. So we have weather and then astronomy. So it's a small change, but maybe they're planning to add more to this category as well. Also within the Music app, if we go to the home page here, you'll see it has Get Up as far as the top picks for you. It looks like they updated this server side today, as it's also available on iOS 26.2. Another thing that's available is Apple Fitness Plus. Now, the first time I went into Fitness Plus, there was a new splash screen. You can see here where it says workouts for everyone, guided meditations, programs, custom plans, and more. This is now available in 28 more countries, as Apple announced this the other day, and it's now rolling out. You'll see here on their Apple Newsroom page where in the largest expansion since launch, the service will be available in Chile, Hong Kong, India, Japan, the Netherlands, Singapore, Taiwan, and more, and adds dubbing in Spanish, German, and Japanese. So I've heard from many of you in India as well as the Philippines that it's also rolling out there, and you should have access to it in the Fitness app. And that doesn't need iOS 26.3, so that's available to everyone now. Apple also updated the Sports app today, and you'll see as far as the notes, it says updates to help you keep up with your favorite sport. Now it looks like, based off some images that were found, that we could be having golf added to this soon. So based on some of the images, I wasn't able to find them here, but it looks like golf may be added soon, maybe along with others, and a subscription tier in the TV app that may allow for a sports section. So those things may be coming very soon. And you'll see it took a second to load there, but overall we should be able to have some of those options here, maybe in TV for sports, and then the new sports app. In addition to this, I wanted to share the Pixel AirDrop feature and see if it's broken or if it's still working. In theory, it should still work just fine. So if we go here, go to Quick Share, we'll go into Photos. Maybe we'll just share the latest update here. We'll try and AirDrop it, make sure it works. Let's see if it shows up. So it says ready to receive. It's still showing it. I can accept it. And it looks like it works. So that's not broken. That feature is still working, and you can still AirDrop even with iOS 26.3. One other tip I wanted to share has to do with iOS 18.7.3. Many people were disappointed that they weren't easily able to update this. So if we go on the iPhone, this is a little bit older one, and we go to settings, you'll see the current version of this one is a bit old. So if I go to About, this iPhone 15 Pro is on iOS 17.7.1. And while we can't get any updates to iOS 17, we can get iOS 18.7.3 if we turn on a feature. So if we go into software updates and maybe you turn on the developer beta or the public beta, you'll have it available. This is the same version that's the RC or release candidate and the same one that released to the public. So if you want to install this and don't want to update to iOS 26, you can actually still install this with all of its security updates. So I would recommend that if you're staying on iOS 18 for now. When it comes to bugs and bug fixes, well, it will take a few days to notice everything, but things such as the control center ghosting seem like they're gone. It does fade into the display though, so you can see that here. Things seem to be nice and fast, scrolling between things. We'll talk about performance in a moment, but opening and closing apps seem to be smooth, so the stutters seem to be fixed so far at least. Also, swiping to the widget page is still nice and smooth. And then if we go over to the app library, you'll see it's nice and fast, and it's what you would expect. So no real changes there that I could find. And as far as CarPlay, well, that will take a few days to know, as few people seem to have issues these days, but there are a few that still do with cars such as GM and Honda. So I've heard from them where iOS 26.2 fixes most of those issues, but let me know if you're still having an issue. When it comes to the wallpaper bug, well, so far it finally seems like it's fixed. So if we get rid of these here, swipe up, you'll see I don't really notice much of a change. So if we swipe home, it may change slightly, but then it seems like it sort of stabilizes to what it was before. So very odd overall, but the overall desaturation might still be there just a little bit, but hopefully it gets resolved as we're all sort of reporting it at this point. As far as releases, well, iOS 26.3 Beta 2 is probably not going to release maybe until next year. Typically, that's what Apple does every year. So, for example, maybe the second week of January, that's typically what we see like we did last year. And we could also see an iOS 26.2.1. So there were some crashes I had just today with iOS 26.2.1. I opened up Mail and I had a respring. I so far haven't experienced that in iOS 26.3 Beta, but I did on the public release. So we definitely still have some bugs to fix there. And then when it comes to the iOS 26.3 public release, well, we may not see that probably until February. Then we'll move on to iOS 26.4 betas, and iOS 26.4 is when we expect the Siri 2.0 update. So the Big Apple Intelligence update and some other features as well. Then, of course, we'll see iOS 27 for the first time in June at WWDC. So this is one thing that's a little bit odd here. So if we go back, you may have noticed already, this says 14.1. You'll see it here, 15.1 under March, so that's a little odd. Not sure why it's doing that, so that seems like a bug. But again, we could see iOS 27 in June, and that's when we'll see the first betas with, of course, the public release in September. As far as the release notes, well, Apple has been skimping on this on their public-facing release notes. You'll see here it says Overview, General. There are no new release notes for this software update. They didn't even bother to mention the transfer to Android option or anything else, so I definitely would like to see their notes updated with at least some of the things they've actually changed. Now, if you're wondering if you should install iOS 26.3 betas, well, I would say hold off at this point, because at this point, we're not going to have a new beta, at least for a few weeks, most likely, due to the holiday time that Apple takes off during December and again returns in January. So most likely, I wouldn't expect any updates unless they change that. But either way, I wouldn't really put it on your main device. Maybe if you have an iPad that you don't use regularly, you could try it out there. As far as overall performance, well, like I mentioned already, it seems to be super smooth. In fact, I noticed already just using it for the past hour or so, going into things, swiping, everything is much smoother even than it was with 26.2, at least on this device. Now we'll have to take a look at it on older devices, maybe with the weekend follow-up video, but overall I'm pretty impressed as far as the smoothness the overall animations, everything seems to be very, very smooth in this update. When it comes to overall heat, well, just like normal, once you install it, it still heats up a little bit, but overall it's staying nice and cool. And I can show you that with the thermal camera. So with the thermal camera, if we bring it in here, you'll see at the hottest point, we're at about 33 degrees Celsius or so. So that's actually a little bit cooler than it was with iOS 26.2. Now we'll wait for benchmarks to finish and we'll take a look. Benchmarks completed, and this is the second time I've run benchmarks today, but you'll see here the better score was actually a little bit earlier as far as multi-core at 9,769, but this time single core was better at 3,828. It's well within the margin of error. It goes up and down, but we'll check it in the weekend follow-up as it typically increases over the next few days. When it comes to storage, let's go into our settings and take a look, see how it compares with iOS 26.2. So if we scroll down to the bottom, iOS 26.2 on the left, iOS 26.3 beta 1 on the right. And again, it's about the same size, 14 gigabytes for iOS compared to 13.93, and Apple Intelligence is 9.07 compared to 6.62. So a little bit bigger, mostly because of Apple Intelligence. When it comes to system data, it goes up and down. I wouldn't really pay too much attention to it. It's only 121 megabytes on 26.2, but again, it goes up and down as this was gigabytes the other day. When it comes to overall battery, I've been using this full time on iOS 26.2, now iOS 26.3 beta 1, and if we go to battery health, I'm at 100% capacity and 32 cycles. As far as overall usage, you'll see today 44% usage with 4 hours and 2 minutes of screen active time, 3 hours and 16 minutes of screen idle time. Yesterday, I only had 2 hours and 12 minutes of screen active time and used 55%, so it's definitely doing a little bit better now. Now, of course, it will take a few days to measure this, so be sure to check back for the weekend follow-up where we'll see how battery's doing after a few days. So that's everything with iOS 26.3 beta 1 so far. Of course, I'll be looking for more features, bug fixes, and more, and we'll talk about that in the weekend follow-up video as we find them. I'd love to hear from you as far as what the overall experience has been so far with iOS 26.3 or even iOS 26.2 as well, and what you're looking most forward to as far as iOS 27. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do, and if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.